Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning into my channel today. Today I'm going to cover three things. The first thing I'm going to cover is the things no one told me my first year of teaching that would have been really helpful. The second thing I'm going to talk about is the worst advice that I ever got. And the third thing I'm going to talk about is the best advice. I've seen that there's lots of questions that teachers are asking on Facebook, so I thought I'm just going to put all of this into one video. Okay, first topic. The three things nobody told me my first year of teaching. Number one, nobody told me that I wasn't going to be able to use the bathroom. What? I mean, that's seriously not something that's covered in our teacher program, and nobody at school goes around telling you, hey, girl, you better make sure you use the bathroom. So that was something I had to learn the hard way my first week of school. Of course, you learn it your first day, but who would have known that you can't use the bathroom? So what happened? Here's the solution to that problem. So I had to figure out what to eat and drink and when to eat and drink it. So breakfast. Basically, some of you might get up super early for breakfast. For me, a lot of times I didn't have time to eat breakfast because I'm getting up, especially with commuting. I would get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then sometimes have a 30-minute to 2-hour commute. So I'm eating breakfast in the car, which means I'm gonna use the bathroom before I leave and when I get to school. But you obviously want to make sure you get to the bathroom before the bell rings. Sometimes that's hard because you might have students, you might have teachers or a meeting or whatnot, but it's something that you always have to be cognizant of, is being able to get to the bathroom. Again, super crazy. I never knew that that was going to be an issue when I started teaching. The other thing too, eating lunch. I had to be really careful of what I packed for lunch and when I ate lunch, because you want to be able to have time to eat lunch and be able to get to the bathroom before the rest of your afternoon classes. Of course, there's also your prep time. So just figuring out strategically when you can eat and drink and when you'll be able to get to the bathroom, because there's some other stories, but that's not this video. The second tip that I learned and wish that somebody would have told me was sleeping. I did not know that I wasn't really going to get much sleep. My first year and even my first 3 years of teaching, especially if you're starting at a new school. What do I mean by that? Well, there's so much on your mind. There's so much that you're planning for, things that you're worried about, your lessons, your students. And I swear, Monday through Friday, I didn't get much sleep. Well, actually not Monday through Friday. It's actually Friday night. Always seemed like the day that I'm like super exhausted and I drop everything at the door and then just crash. Because sleep, yeah, that's something that you kind of figure out as you go along your school year. And so what is the solution to that? The solution is to make sure that you plan. Really take the time to plan. And handle as much as you can during your contract hours, which is also really difficult, and that's a whole other video with being organized, but definitely try to plan the best that you can so that you can get sleep. The third thing that I wish somebody would have told me was the drama with teachers and even some teacher haters. Yes, I said it. That was something that was not prepared for and didn't even know about, and had to learn the hard way my first couple of years of teaching. Because I went into teaching thinking, oh wow, this is gonna be amazing. Everybody's there for the kids and everybody's educated, so this is gonna be great. Well, that might be true for some schools and other people's experiences, but there's also drama, and that's not something that you are really prepared for. But I do have a story, and I couldn't believe that this happened to me, but I really learned a valuable lesson. So I got into teaching because I was an emergency hire. There was a need, teacher shortage, as there is right now. And so I didn't do a teacher program. My undergraduate degree was in political science, but I had been working for a nonprofit that provided an after-school program. And so I had been working with kids for a couple of years at this particular school. and was then recruited to pilot an at-risk program. So that's how I started teaching. Now, it was the first day of school, and this teacher was offered a job, and so she quit. The first or second day that teachers came back to school, and she taught seniors and she taught government. So the principal came to me and asked me if I would be interested in this position, which I was super excited about. I have my degree in political science, government. Yes, I'm all about it. So, but now I have days to get ready, right? So I'm prepping and also super excited. I'm on fire. And then it was I believe it was the first week of school, and the bell rang, and now we're going into like our 10-minute break. And my department chair burst through the door and was like, I don't know why the principal hired you for this job. You know, there's a hierarchy, and teaching seniors is a privilege. And so the teacher that was here last year in social studies should have gotten this job, not you. And I'm thinking to myself, is this real? Is this really happening? Who is this lunatic? This is what I'm thinking. Now, as I said, it's that 10-minute break where there's a transition. So there were kids leaving my classroom, and then there were also kids coming in for my next class. So I'm thinking, this is so unprofessional. But, you know, I'm tidying up, I'm getting ready for my next class, writing on the whiteboard, and I'm thinking to myself, what is she talking about? So she was like, I think that, you know, this teacher should have gotten it, not you, and you're not even qualified, etc., etc. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, first of all, you don't even know my resume. Second of all, you're not the principal, so you didn't hire me. Why do you feel like this is even your place to weigh in? And then I'm thinking, why didn't you just go to the principal and address it with her? Like, what am I supposed to do about this? So all these things are flooding through my brain, and a friend of mine was in the back of the room. She was printing something for her class, and we're both just kind of looking at each other like, what's happening? What is going on? And so I'm thinking, I don't have time for this. And also too, because it's disrespectful and there's kids coming and going. So I'm just like listening to her, but at the same time, not trying to let her affect me. So she's going on, and I turned to her and I said, well, first of all, my undergraduate degree is in political science, even though I'm thinking, I don't know why that's even your business. And so teaching government absolutely is something that I'm qualified to do. And I said, and I also did an internship on the Hill in Washington, D.C. And so my experience there is something that I will also bring to the classroom. And so, you know, while she listened, she said to me, oh, well, I didn't know. I'm thinking to myself, why would you? Anyways, the bell rang and she left, and, you know, my class is coming in, and the whole time I'm thinking to myself, did that just actually happen? I can't believe that just happened to me. And my friend even was saying, wow, I can't believe that just happened, and I witnessed it. And I said, I'm so glad that I have a witness of her bursting into my classroom. But I still have like 2 more classes until lunchtime, so I didn't really want that to affect my day. But I thought to myself, okay, I'm just gonna let that roll off. I'll let that roll off and deal with it later. So lunch comes, bell rings, close the door, and now I have time to really process and think about what just happened. So I knelt down in prayer because I was thinking, Lord, you need to help me. You need to help me because I have a department meeting later on this week, and I'm gonna have to see her, and you know, I just don't want things to get ugly. So please help me. And so I got on the phone during my lunch while I'm trying to eat lunch and prep for my next class. And I was telling my mom the situation. She's a retired teacher as well. So she's listening to me, and, you know, and she's had experiences dealing with other teachers as well. And so she said to me, she said, you know, that was a test of your character, because what you do in a situation like that really speaks volumes of your character. And I thought to myself, yeah, but why did that have to happen? I mean, she's a department chair, totally disrespectful, and also unprofessional. But I thought, okay, you know what? Let's see what happens. I'm gonna go to my department meeting, which I think was the next day. So I go to my department meeting, and of course, I'm not gonna bring it up in the meeting, but the meeting comes to an end. The whole time my mind is thinking, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that happened. And so at the end of the meeting, she says, can I talk to you for a second? As everybody's leaving, and I'm thinking to myself, sure, no problem. So we sit down and talk. And she said to me, I just want to apologize. I want to apologize to you with how I came in and talked to you the other day. I'm just going through a lot of things right now, and I'm sorry that I took that off on you. I didn't mean to. And I just said, thank you. I appreciate you apologizing. And she said, I didn't know about your experiences and teaching government. And so I think that that's really great, and that you'll be able to share a lot with our students. So thank you. And of course in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, you just never know. You just never know. So that was something that I was not prepared for. No one told me that there are these, well, that's not true. I did know about dramas with things that my mom had experienced, but other than that, I didn't really know. That's not really something that people talk about. So just being prepared and to stay far, far away from the drama as much as possible. So those are my 3 tips of things that nobody told me. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is the worst advice. The worst advice that I ever got. Number 1 was, and actually all of this bad advice basically has to do with classroom management. So the worst advice that I got, number 1 was, don't take it personal. And I thought to myself, because these kids will test you. And I thought, how can you not take it personal, the things that they say? I mean, you're absolutely going to take it personal. But I think what they meant to say was, in that moment, don't react and take it personal. But my advice to you is that, you know, when the kids are gone, allow yourself to process it and reflect on what happened, what was said. And as a teacher, we are supposed to understand what kids are going through. And so if you take the time to build a relationship with your students and that relationship of trust, eventually you will see that your classroom management and problems will start to diminish, but it does take time. So that's my advice. The second bad advice that I got was ignore the behavior. Ignore the behavior. Now, maybe that might be advice for parenting, but in the classroom, it's a little different, and some might argue, you know, on a case-by-case basis. But I have found that if someone is acting out or making comments or being belligerent, whatever it is, in your classroom, there's usually a reason for it. You know, it could be that they're showing off, there's something going on at home. Nowadays, it could be anything. But I would say that ignoring it isn't exactly the best advice. What I would say is that when students are exhibiting that behavior, and let me give you an example. So I had a student who was super dramatic. Like, all eyes had to be on her. Like, everything, oh my gosh! Like, just everything was big. And it was disruptive. Now, this is not the worst behavior, but I'm just giving you an example of how you can't really ignore that, right? And it was like every day, almost through the entire class. So, again, as I had mentioned, just building that relationship of trust. So I called her to the side and I said, you know, I absolutely love your energy. Love your energy. I love having you in my classroom. You're a joy. However, sometimes your behavior is just a little disruptive, just a little bit. And when you disrupt the class, you're impeding other people's learning. So I'm just saying that maybe there are times when you could just dial it down. Just dial it down a little bit. Okay, so that's just an example of how you can address the behavior without ignoring it. And again, it depends on what it is and it depends on your personality, but that's my advice. The third worst advice that I got was wing it, right? You hear that, fake it till you make it. Okay. In some situations, you might feel like you're winging it, but I would say to plan and have a toolbox. Have a toolbox of tricks that you can bring into any situation that might feel like you're winging it. So, for example, have some games, have some treats, and if anything fails, again, I'm a political science major, refer to current events. And the reason why I bring this up is because with teacher shortage, sometimes you're asked to have to cover a class, a subject that you have no experience in, don't know anything about, and you've got to cover that class. And that class could be 50 minutes, it could be 70 minutes, it could be 85 minutes. But if you have something in your toolkit that you can just bring with you, then it won't necessarily feel like you're winging it, but definitely just kind of have that plan. And even if you have to bring in a lesson or activity that you did in your class with another class, so that's that situation. But if you're teaching and let's say the technology doesn't work, because sometimes that happens where the internet is down and you can't pull up your slides or the video you were going to show, so definitely always have a backup plan. So for me, winging it, worst advice. What I would say is just have a backup plan, have a sub plan, have a toolkit ready to go. Okay, and this last part of the video is the best advice. The best advice that I've gotten while I've been teaching. So number one, the best advice is ask for help. Now I know you hear that and you think, I know I need help, but sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? And so there are many teachers around you that can help you. But when the school year starts, a lot of times everybody is trying to, get through the day, and they're trying to make copies and for their classes and things like that. So when you have a chance to talk to someone and ask for help, be sure that you reach out. And I would add just a little more to that, which is find a mentor teacher. As you go to meetings, as you get to know the teachers near your classroom, as you go to your department meetings, you'll start to get to know teachers. I mean, teachers, everybody is willing and ready to help. So find a mentor, find several mentors, and talk to them. And even if they have an opportunity to come in and observe you briefly on their break, to give you some feedback, that also helps. And this is if you don't actually have a mentor teacher program at your school. The second best advice that I got had to do with teaching seniors. So that year that the experience that I shared with you earlier, there was another teacher that taught seniors that gave me this advice, and I'm so glad she did because it was something that I didn't know. She said, make sure that you reach out to the seniors and their parents to let them know if they're falling behind. Now, you think about, well, I should be doing that anyway. Absolutely, but if you're teaching seniors, especially, and your class is a core class that's required for graduation, or they play sports, it's absolutely imperative that you reach out to them. So having that advice helped me with planning. So I knew that like 2 weeks before the progress reports were going to go out, I reached out to parents. I let them know, hey, this is the grade that your child has. These are the assignments that they need to do. This is their attendance. You know, if they're, you know, not coming or if they're tardy consistently because your class is after the break or after lunch, letting the parents know. And that really, you know, gets the kids into your class, making sure that they're doing their assignments. In addition, if the kids are dealing with whether or not they're eligible to play, that's going to be a huge deal, because the last thing you want is for a parent to find out that their child is ineligible to play that Friday, because they are going to find you. The other thing too that I did is I made sure that I let the parents know I'm available after school until 4:30 on these days. So your child is welcome to come and see me. And then when they did come to see me after school, I made sure that I had to sign in. The kids signed in so that you could see their signature, and I had that documentation. I had the call log, so that, because a lot of times parents will go to the principal, and I had a principal who said, if you have the documentation that you called, that you emailed, then I will back you up. But if you don't have anything, then it makes it difficult. So I made sure that I had that documentation. So that was awesome advice about teaching seniors and making sure that they know and that you're available. Okay, the third best advice that I got was take care of yourself. Now, what does that mean? What that means is, as I had previously mentioned about not sleeping, is a lot of times on the weekend you sleep, but then you're constantly lesson planning. You're thinking about things and how you could make something better, and or maybe you're wanting to collaborate or do a project or grading. I mean, the list is endless. And while there's lots of joy to teaching, I mean, this is just, I'm just being real. And so taking care of yourself is something you absolutely have to do, and even put it on your calendar if you need to. So what I did, and I'm so happy that this has been a thing that I do, is at the end of each semester, my cousin and I would go to a spa, and we would schedule it and book it ahead of time, and it was something to look forward to. And so, you know, the massage treatment and everything, we would go to dinner. That was amazing, and every time that I did it, I felt like a whole new person. Now, maybe that's not for you. Maybe it's going hiking or swimming or biking or just reading and cuddling up with your favorite book. But whatever it is, make sure that you schedule it on the weekend or every month or at the end of the semester. Now, when I first started, I'll just be honest, my friend and I, we would say, okay, we live by the beach, we're gonna go to the beach. Now, it was a little hard in the beginning, and sometimes what would happen is we would go to the beach, but then we would end up talking about school and our lesson plans. So what we'd have to do is we would say, okay, we're gonna go out on Friday night or on Saturday, and we are not gonna talk about school. And so a lot of times what that consisted of was going to dinner and then seeing a movie. Right, where you're not really talking about school. But make sure that you take the time to take care of yourself. Thank you so much for watching my video today about the things that I wish that people would have told me my first year, that would have been, or my first couple of years, that would have been really helpful. The worst advice and the best advice. I hope that was helpful for you. And as you get ready for your school year, or as you're already starting your school year, I know it's going to be great. Remember that you are really good at what you do, and you've got this. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, click like, subscribe to my channel, and click the notification bell so you don't miss a video. And leave a comment below if there's something that you want to see or question that you might have. I'd be happy to address it. And until then, we'll see you next time.